Speaking of sociopaths, here is Kirsten Gillibrand saying some incredibly racist nonsense on the Brian Layler show. Brian Layler says Zohran does not support violent jihad. Let's hear what Kirsten Gillibrand, New York senator, had to say.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call and question. I wanted to ask two very pertinent questions about the threats facing the Jewish community, unfortunately, from Zohran Mamdani. There was a bill that I was reading about that, unfortunately, he wants to target synagogues and Jewish institutions which donate to nonprofits, which are medical institutions like United Hatzalah and Magan David Adam, which is like the Jewish Red Cross. So how do we make sure that Jewish institutions are protected from his plans to punish and fine our institutions which fundraise these medical nonprofits, which do work both here in the United States and in Israel and other countries in the world? And also, how can we hold Mr. Mamdani accountable for his glorifying association of Hamas and other terror bombings of the Intifada in 1990s, where over 1,000 Jewish Israelis were killed, to his revisionist Holocaust knowledge, to the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, where Jews were mass exterminated and faced threats? He compared when Jews were killed to when Jews fought back against Nazis. It's quite despicable. I'm sorry.
Gabe, thank you for your call. There's a lot in there, Senator, some of which may be inaccurate. So I don't know. I can't fact check everything in real time. But do you know any of that to be inaccurate or accurate, including the original premise that he would somehow target synagogues if they were contributing to groups like Hatzalah, ambulance services, in a way that he could hurt the synagogues? I just don't want to give out information that's false, but I also don't want to shrink from information that's true.
Well, the caller is exactly the New York constituents that I've spoken to that are alarmed. They are alarmed by past public statements. They are alarmed by past positions, particularly references to global jihad. This is a very serious issue because people that glorify the slaughter of Jews create fear in our communities. The global intifada is a statement that means destroy Israel and kill all the Jews. So these are the kinds of things that if Mr. Mamdani is elected our mayor.
Bro, please fact check in real time. Are you kidding me? What can I fact check? This is just like bile. This is the type of statement you're asking me to fact check. David Duke talking about Jews, okay? Like, excuse me, can you please fact check David Duke's statement about Jewish tentacles being all over, the American media and the American government? Like, this is the equivalent for Muslims, okay? This is straightforwardly the most transparent neo-Nazi sentiment. I'll give you one fact check that's important, though. So this person is asking, there was a bill that I was reading about that unfortunately he wants to target synagogues and Jewish institutions which donate to nonprofits, which are medical, right? That question is, there is no targeting of Jewish institutions. There is, however, some conversations about institutions that, religious or not, illegally engage in land sales on occupied territory in the West Bank. That's it. Institutions that support illegal land sales on illegally occupied territory in the West Bank might lose their funding.
That was beheaded.
Look,
my heart broke as I saw a man hold up a child that was beheaded by the Israeli military's bombing of a tent city of Palestinian refugees. My heart broke as I saw bodies burned to a crisp, taking refuge in the place that the Israeli military had designated as a safe zone. And I asked myself, what does this have to do with us in New York? And the answer is everything. We do not have the luxury of feeling hopeless or helpless because we have the responsibility of action. Action because in this moment, New York state law allows for New Yorkers to get a tax deduction if they donate to the very kind of Israeli military units that dropped those bombs on innocent Palestinians. Today, we gather here to demand the bare minimum, which is to end tax breaks for genocide.
Yeah, that's it. If you're an institution that's like running fundraisers for the Israeli occupying force, or if you're an institution, whether you're a synagogue or a Jewish advocacy group or not, doesn't matter if you are using that institution to sell homes and sell land in the occupied West Bank directly against existing American law, directly against existing international law. If you're a church or a synagogue, doesn't matter, or a mosque, really. If you're any religious institution that is using, or any institution, any 501c3, you will no longer get tax breaks. It is illegal to do this. It is illegal to do this. And yet these guys are fundraising for West Bank settlers to be armed. They are fundraising for pogroms. They are fundraising for land grabs and illegal land theft and illegal land sales. Of course they're not allowed to do that. Suck my... Are you out of your mind? They should be in prison. In a just world, they would go to jail, okay? Not lose their tax break status. Not lose their 501c3 status. They would go to jail. You should go to jail, okay? You should be imprisoned. Here's a more on-point video from Zohran.
Is Zohran Mamdani. I'm the assembly member for the 36th district in Northwest Queens, and I introduced this legislation which is titled Not on Our Dime. And this is legislation that is saying that New York State will no longer subsidize the aiding and abetting of Israeli settlements. And what that means is that right now in New York State, we have organizations masquerading as charities sending tax-free money to the tune of more than $60 million a year to help maintain and expand settlements in Israel. And we know that settlements are illegal under international law. And so what we're saying is, if we know under the Geneva Convention this is illegal, if we know that under U.S. foreign policy we're opposed to settlement expansion and annexation, then why is New York State allowing this to happen on our dime? So what we are doing with this legislation is bringing our state in line with its values. And we're saying no longer are we going to allow war crimes to be financed tax-free through New York State. We're going to end that complicity, and we're going to stand for human rights for Palestinians.
Who would have issue with this? Who would take issue with this? Go ahead. Argue on the actual issues. Don't make up stuff. Okay? But you can't. People cannot. Here's the problem. You can't actually argue on the real reasons as to why this was a piece of legislation that was advanced. You can't argue about like how you do have a right to steal land and fund the initiatives that actually do pogroms. You have a right to fund the Jewish KKK in the West Bank. Can you imagine being like, no, you don't understand. I think that like it literally turns into the meme. Like, sorry, this is my promised land. I have to take it. And you have to give me tax breaks when I fundraise for these initiatives. Like, that's insane. Everyone would look at you like you're out of your mind. What do you mean? So that's what this first conversation was about. How do we make sure that Jewish institutions are protected from his plans to punish and fine our institutions?
Our institutions which fundraise these medical nonprofits, which do work both here in the United States and in Israel and other countries in the world. And also, how can we hold Mr. Mamdani accountable for his glorifying association of Hamas and other terror bombings of the Intifada in 1990s, where over 1,000 Jewish Israelis were killed, to his...
Yeah, okay. First of all, the first Intifada was fought with stones, and a ton more Palestinians were killed. A massive number of Palestinians were deliberately, gravely wounded, okay, by design. The second Intifada was more violent, and yet, obviously, the asymmetry of casualties did not favor the Palestinian side in that one either, okay?
His revisionist Holocaust knowledge to the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, where Jews were mass exterminated and faced threats. He compared when Jews were killed to when Jews fought back against Nazis. It's quite despicable. I'm sorry.
He compared when Jews were killed, when Jews fought back against Nazis. Quite despicable. I'm sorry. Why? Why is that despicable? Do you just think that you're a special class of person? Do you think that it's different? It is the same. Warsaw Ghetto Intifada, which is just the Arabic translation, is certainly comparable to people breaking out of the open air prison that Israel has designed for them. The only reason why you don't want this one-to-one comparison is because this time you're advocating for the Nazis in that equation. That's it. This time it's different because I like the Nazis this time. Sorry. The first Intifada was not nonviolent. The first Intifada was immensely violent, but for the Palestinians. The second intifada also was violent for the Palestinians. Guys, stop saying clip chimp, okay? God, y'all are so. You know what? The longer of a term community subscriber you are, the bigger your punishment is going to be going forward. Okay? If you're like a 50-month subscriber and you go, uh-oh, clip chimp incoming, you're going to get a week off. If you're a 60-month subscriber and you go, uh-oh, clip chimp, I'm going to permaban you. Shut the up, dude.
Gabe, thank you for your call. There's a lot in there, Senator, some of which may be inaccurate. So I don't know. I can't fact check everything in real time. But do you know any of that to be inaccurate or accurate, including the original premise that he would somehow target synagogues if they were contributing to groups like Hatzalah, ambulance services, in a way that he could hurt?
I do. I already explained the context, just so you know. Now you know what the context is. The Not on Our Dime bill is about revoking the 501c3 status of institutions, groups, okay, philanthropic organizations that fundraise for the Israeli occupying force, that fundraise for West Bank settlement operations, that actually engage in illegal land theft and also illegal land sales of occupied Palestinian territory. This is a direct violation of international human rights. This is a direct violation this is a direct violation of our rights. Like in America, this is illegal, okay? This is illegal. I don't give a that it's like a synagogue that's doing it. It's still illegal. What do you mean? Unless you think that there is a special status for Jews, and I don't, okay? Unless you think that there is a special status where Jewish advocacy groups and Jewish places of worship can do this like overwhelmingly, transparently illegal thing, it's a crime. They should be going to jail, okay? People that are doing this should be going to jail. So to complain about getting your 501c3 status being revoked in this process when you're doing something like that is directly illegal is insane to me. You should be excited at the prospect of not having to see the inside of a jail cell for doing something that is transparently illegal. Enforce the law. What is this nonsensical position? Enforce the law? Sorry, you can't do that. I'm Jewish and I'm doing it inside of a synagogue is a ridiculous argument to make.
The synagogues, I just don't want to give out information that's false, but I also don't want to shrink from information that's true.
Well,
yeah, if Hamas did something similar for Hamas or Hezbollah, they would be immediately sent to Guantanamo. And ironically enough, despite the designation of Hamas being a terrorist organization in the United States of America, okay, despite that designation, Hamas does have a legal right to defend the Gaza Strip. Hamas does have a legal right to defend Palestinian sovereignty under international law. Israel does not have a legal right to steal land in the West Bank and occupied Palestinian territory. What Israel is doing is illegal. What Hamas is doing outside of October 7, what Hamas is doing is literally legal. When Hamas and Al-Qassam Brigade militancy go and blow up an armored personnel carrier or a Merkava tank, okay, inside of the Gaza Strip in Khan Yunis, as they did the other day, and kill 7 Israeli soldiers, that is literally legal. That is not illegal. That is not only legal, but it's also moral, okay? The people, of course, have a right to defend themselves. What the You, on the other hand, do not have a right to illegally occupy the Gaza Strip as a belligerent occupier and starve the population and do a genocide. What the An investigation by the Israeli newspaper Haaretz found that settlements received $220 million in total from American charities from 2009 to 2013. Americans have donated millions more to settlements, settler militias, and Israeli military units in the Palestinian territory since October 7 through a platform called Israel Gives, according to The Guardian. Can you imagine this kind of nonsense, dude? I cannot. I just like... It's so insane. It's so insane. About 200 Israelis were killed in the first intifada, roughly 80 civilians. In Gaza alone, during the first year of on the intifada, 0 Israeli civilians were killed, while the IDF has shot and killed over 200 Palestinians.
The caller is exactly the New York constituents that I've spoken to that are alarmed. They are alarmed by past public statements. They are alarmed by past positions, particularly references to global jihad.
You racist piece of shit. You racist monster.
This is a very serious issue because people that glorify the slaughter of Jews create fear in our communities. The global intifada is a statement that means destroy Israel and kill all the Jews. So these are the kinds of things that if Mr. Mamdani is elected our mayor, we'll need to assure all New Yorkers that he will protect all Jews and protect houses of worship and protect funding for not-for-profits that meet the needs of these communities. Those are the things he have to do as our mayor.
He would certainly say that he has committed to protecting all Jews in New York as mayor of New York.
How is this any different than like what Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying, by the way? Like, this is Charlie Kirk. Am I listening to Charlie Kirk, or am I listening to a supposedly progressive Democratic senator from New York? It's Marjorie Taylor Greene with a New York accent, basically. Like,
do as our mayor.
Yeah, he's going to do pogroms on Jews. He's going to do Kristallnacht. Disgusting.
I would certainly say that he has committed to protecting all Jews in New York as mayor of New York. Do you dispute? Do you doubt that?
Well, one of the issues I did talk to him yesterday was exactly this issue, and he has agreed to work with me on this and to protect all residents. So this is something I care deeply about, and so I will be an advocate on these issues. These are things.
Yeah, I wonder why she cares deeply about this fake nonsense. Oh, that's right, because she received almost $1 million from AIPAC and the Israeli lobby. AIPAC, DMFI, and NORPAC. Just came across a quote from Senator Gillibrand on an article on AIPAC funding. I sometimes forget how dumb she is. At a private AIPAC meeting with the lawmakers last January, mega donors were upset that a few Democrat lawmakers weren't as enthusiastic about the wanton slaughter of Gaza as Gillibrand was. This was her attempt to excuse their insubordination. Addressing widespread calls for a ceasefire, Gillibrand conceded that some of the people calling for one are doing so because they want innocent lives to be protected, and then added, but they may not understand that if you call for a ceasefire, you can't get the hostages back. Moron. Racist moron. This is the type of person that's leading this country, dude. This is the type of leadership in the Democratic Party. Also, think about how psychotic this is, that she had a conversation with Zohran Mamdani. She has heard Zohran Mamdani address these things over and over again, and she still had she didn't even drop a beat before calling him a terrorist that wants to do global jihad, that wants to kill all Jews. Vile, monstrous piece of
things that I think are important to New Yorkers. And I will work with him when he gets elected, if he gets elected, to make sure everyone is protected. I also, on the federal level, work to get, and these are things that he has assured me in my one conversation, that he will protect everyone. But I understand why people are concerned because of past statements. And so this is just an issue that I will work.
People are concerned. Get the out of here. Here is writer, editor-in-chief Ariel Angel, editor-in-chief of Jewish Currents, says, infuriating. Senator Gillibrand, Jews, in quotes because there's no internal consensus, do not get a monopoly on the meaning of the words that come from the broad history of Palestinian struggle, especially when many understandings are rooted in disinfo, fear-mongering, and ignorance. Senator Gillibrand, your Palestinian American constituents deserve an apology here. Why aren't their feelings, their identity, their history important to you as your Jewish American, as important to you as your Jewish American constituents? This is an incredibly racist assessment that she made here. I cannot. What is this? I went for a bit. Did you see this? A sitting U.S. congressman, mask off, hood on. Zohran Little Mohammed Mamdani is an anti-Semitic socialist communist who will destroy the great city of New York. He needs to be deported, which is why I'm calling for him to be subject to denaturalization proceedings. It is wild how little it took for these guys to basically openly turn into monsters, by the way.
Work with him on, for sure.
I just feel compelled to say, we can find no evidence that he has supported Hamas or has supported violent jihad, as that caller was asserting. Can you?
Again, Brian, I don't have all the data and information, and I've never sat down with Mr. Mamdani. So I've asked to have that meeting. I'm going to have that meeting. We will talk through all these things. He can tell me his views of the world, and I can learn them firsthand. I think the reference that I had read was global intifada specifically, which has very serious meanings that are violent and destructive. So
which he says, and I pressed him on this on the show on Monday, but which he says are not calls for violence, because intifada is a much broader term involving all kinds of uprisings and resistance and things like that. So I just want to be clear about how at least he defines it. And maybe he needs to be more clear. I don't mean this. I don't mean that. He did say here that he didn't.
He has clarified 1,000,000 times over. If you don't hear it, it's because you don't want to hear it or you don't like the answer. That's what this is. I'm sick and tired of entertaining the racist notions of dumb Americans, dude. There is a level there is a level that you have to reach. There is some capitulation that you have to engage in if you want to play ball in a situation like this. Okay, if you're a Muslim guy, if you're a Muslim especially, there's so much unchecked, unrestricted Islamophobia, unchecked racism against Muslims. The notion that like every Muslim is a secret jihadi. This piece of shit also posted this with a congressional letterhead. Will a censure come for him? I don't think so. Remember, they censured Rashida Tlaib for saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Will they censure Representative Andy Ogles for this? No, of course not. And the Democrats won't push for this either because they're also in the pocket.
Want to be the word police, even as the mayor of New York, if he's elected. But I do also want to be clear that he said he does not support violent intifada. Is that fair?
So, Brian, I didn't hear your exchange with him, but if I was speaking to him directly, I would simply say that is not how the words.
Yeah, the reason why his words are not being perceived that way by you, even though you also apparently talked to him directly, you animal, is because you're racist. That's it. There's nothing he can say other than Am Israel Chai that will be appropriate and acceptable for you. That's it. Sorry, I'm a racist white woman. And I don't even think this is just because she's a racist white woman. I think it's because she's a racist white woman that's gotten $1 million from the Israel lobby. That's it. Who is this lady? Kirsten Gillibrand. She's a New York senator.
Are received. And it doesn't matter what meaning you have in your brain. It is not how the word is received. And when you use a word like
shut the up. You, dude. You. Who the are you? Oh, if you use the word like intifada to many Jewish Americans, you're not even Jewish, by the way. What the are we doing? People who defend Israel literally unironically think they're more Jewish than Jewish people, okay? It's so annoying. Sounds like an irrelevant person. You think a New York Democratic Party senator is irrelevant? Are you insane? Unfortunately, she is not. As much as I wish she was, she is not irrelevant.
Intifada to many Jewish Americans and Jewish New Yorkers, that means you are permissive for violence against Jews. It is a serious word. It is a word that has deep meaning. It has been used for wars across time and violence and destruction and slaughter and murder against the Jews. It is a harmful, hurtful, inappropriate word for anyone who wants to represent a city as diverse as New York City with 8 million people. And I would be very specific in these words, and I would say you may not use them again if you expect.
She does sound like Candace Owens, by the way. Yes. Now I understand why you guys were saying she sounds like Candace Owens. I thought you guys were saying like her words make it seem like because she's so racist, but you actually meant like she literally sounds like Candace Owens, like her voice. And yes, I hear it too.
To represent everyone ever again because they are received as hateful and divisive and harmful. And that's it. So I appreciate that he told you he didn't mean that. And that's great. That's
and
a great place to start.
Also,
still don't trust him. I still don't trust him. He's Muslim, Brian, he's Muslim. Zohran is the first leftist I've ever actually seen use dog whistles so well for the left that he makes all the centrists mauled. I know. Here's the thing. It's cool that she it's cool that Zohran is uncompromising in this position, okay? That's what's making people lose their minds. It's not just the dog whistles that he uses, or it's not like using liberal values, even though he's a socialist. Like, there are alignments here with at least the theoretical values that liberals are supposed to abide by, that socialists do genuinely abide by, right? Stop. Guys, I'm doing a serious conversation about Islamophobia against the mayoral candidate right now, and you dumb want to post about like my old stupid joke tweet. Like, shut the up. I'm banning you. Ninjite, once again, eat a please for 5 seconds. Be serious, please. Lock in. Unban him before I get mad. Oh, dude, you too. Ninjite's been permit before. I have even heard anti-Zionist, non-Zionist Jews say it makes them fearful because of an association they think about with the violent resistance against Western Jews. I think but it's a more common fear than I thought. How can you convince people to get over that /Jen? It's coming from hysteria. There is not too much you could do. It's the same around policing language with from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. It's the same exact even progressive anti-Zionist or non-Zionist Jews who are like, oh, I'm a two-stater or whatever right? Like they can still be overcome with hysteria. That's it. It's hysterical. No one is advocating to kill Jews in the Western world on the streets. Like, what the are you talking about? It's just because it's a scary Muslim word. That's it. It's because it's a scary Arabic word and its association is with Islam. It's the same principle behind jihad, the word jihad. It's the same principle behind intifada, scary, ooh. It's the same principle behind when Arab Christians say Allahu Akbar, or like God is great, God is the greatest, okay? They don't understand that. They go, "Oh, this is I've seen this in television, in movies. When they say that, it that means that they're gonna explode themselves." Yeah, exactly. It's not Muslims who say Jews will not replace us. Okay, it's Nazis who say that, and they hate Muslims too. Sometimes more than they hate Jews, and sometimes less than they hate Jews, or at least they'll take a sidestep and make it seem like they're pro-Palestine for a brief moment just so they can on Jews, but they don't like Muslims either.
Disgusted with the
not policing Islam, but fun fact, hysteria was the diagnosable mental health disorder in DSM-5 that specifically targeted women. Hence the same root word as hysterectomy based on the German word for womb. I did not know that. I mean, I did know that hysteria was like a diagnosable medical condition. They would like lobotomize women. I did know that, but obviously its modern practical application is not that. And that person wasn't being woke of the day. He was just giving a fun fact. He already prefaced it by saying this is not about like policing Islam's language or anything.
He was clarifying that he never said globalize the intifada. He was asked in an interview if he would denounce the phrase globalize the intifada. And then that led to this kind of conversation, that you were just referring to. But that he was never out there saying globalize the intifada. He was asked about other people who used it. So just to be precise about what happened there. Yes?
Well, as a leader of a city as diverse as New York City, with 8 million people, as the largest Jewish population in the country, he should denounce it. And that's it. Period. And you can't celebrate it, you can't value it, you can't lift it up. And that is the challenge that Jewish New Yorkers have had, certainly since October 6th.
Dude. Cloud District, the question you asked me, remember when you said like, oh, well, some Jewish people, even progressive Jews, are like afraid of the word. How can you not understand? How can you not understand that this is an anti-genocidal, anti-apartheid slogan, and these either are sincerely or insincerely policing the language, an emancipatory slogan. This is like the most permissible thing you can say, okay? This is the most permissible thing you can do. It is not only First Amendment protected speech, but beyond that, it's not even like an immediate like demand for an immediate call to violence anyway. It is so insincere. The word is only tied to Western Jews by virtue of their ties to Israel as a Jewish state. Anti-Zionists understand the intifadas were uprisings against the regional conflict and occupation/apartheid imposed upon Palestinians by the settler colonial state of Israel. It's ridiculous, and it's no different as I had this conversation with my former podcast co-host, who is also a racist, rabid Islamophobic piece of shit now, and I guess he was back then as well, but I didn't realize it. This is no different than white Christian guys who are racist being like, well, when people say Black Lives Matter, it makes me feel bad. It makes me feel bad. It makes me feel like you're saying white lives don't matter. Okay, well, you're going to have to put up with that. That's my assessment of this as well. The idea that like there is a genocide happening and that we have to literally factor in the feelings of people who are in support of that genocide and other people who have been whipped up into a frenzied panic by other people who are, again, in support of this genocide is not in consideration at all. And the only reason why we're having this back and forth is twofold. One, because Jews are a marginalized demographic, okay? Anti-Semitism is real. That's a real thing that happens, okay? And a lot of people are cynically using this real point of marginalization as a weapon against any sort of emancipatory slogan that demands an end to this bloodshed, okay? And the other reason why we're even having this conversation at all is because nobody gives a about Muslims. This is seen as like a Muslim issue. This is not seen as an issue of humanity and inhumanity, but instead this is just like a Muslim thing. So nobody cares. Yeah, Zohran is receiving actual threats against his life, but Democrats would rather make fake accusations of racism and anti-Semitism than defend him. The entire media landscape on the right and even some Democrats are actively talking about how, Zohran is a scary Muslim. He's a scary Musliman. Is there a point that it's appropriate to police speech? Like, I personally think globalized intifada is a perfectly acceptable, but something like go back to Poland is racist, and people shouldn't say that. I don't know if that's inconsistent. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Yes, in a massive movement, there's gonna be people that say like in the Black Lives Matter rallies. I'm sure there were plenty of people who were saying things about white people or things about cops that you might not agree with. That doesn't take away from the overall message. The overall message is not about killing cops and killing white people in the streets. The overall message for Black Lives Matter was about police brutality disproportionately targeting black communities and black people. Okay, that's it. Any type of hyper focus on edge cases such as this one, like, oh, this person came out with a red triangle, or oh, this person said, kill Zionists or whatever. It's like, yeah, okay, that person is out there. Okay, they're beyond the point of what the actual protest is. Any moment spent on that kind of is a moment where you're just on your own cause. So if you're a real one, if you actually care about Palestinian emancipation, then you got to shut the up and not even allow that sort of to pollute the overarching point, because people are cynically trying to use that against the cause. Yeah, I was pro civil rights movement until I found out that there was one guy at one of the marches that kill whitey. Now I'm not so sure. Exactly. Also, yeah, I mean, obviously things have changed. There was a Jewish Voice for Peace banner I saw that literally had the red triangle in it, which I thought was funny, and I don't really care about it anyway, one way or another. You shame bad actors. You don't try to actively police language. Shadows, if you have issues, you isolate people and excise them from the movement by not engaging and not trying to railroad lunatics into doing what is best. Exactly. Like Sneeko apparently went to the Zohran celebration, and you know what they did? They kicked him out. They asked him to leave. Okay? They got him to leave. It's that simple. That's what you're supposed to do. Does Sneeko represent the mobilization behind Zohran? He's a Holocaust denier. Does he? No, of course not. If you do not center the feelings of racist, white supremacist white people and how they feel about an emancipatory slogan like Black Lives Matter, then stop centering the feelings of ethno-religious supremacists when you're talking about emancipatory slogans that pertain to Palestinian emancipation. Do you understand? It's insane. I don't let a Nazi dictate what I can and can't say around their own personal discomfort. So I'm not going to do that if the person is pro-Israel, or even if the person is not pro-Israel, I guess. Okay. And has been whipped away by the fucking frenzied, hysterical statements of pro-Israel people in their orbit. Because at the end of the day, if you are pro-Palestine, and you come to a person like myself, or you go to a person like Zohran, and you ask them, what do you mean by this? What do people mean by this when they say globalize the intifada? Because as a Jew, I'm scared when I hear this, because I think this means like kill Jews. Okay, this is what I've been taught. This is what I've learned. And if you don't listen to someone like myself, or someone like Zohran, or someone who is pro-Palestinian emancipation, and you don't take their word for it, then that means you don't trust us. That means you don't think I can ever be capable of saying something that is not anti-Semitic, that you have perceived as anti-Semitic. It's that simple. There's still a bunch of resilient particles of Islamophobia that is still in your mind in this process. That's it. So at a certain point, I will always have that conversation with someone, okay, that earnestly is asking me. But if they just keep saying over and over again, well, I'm still scared, you shouldn't use it, then f off. Do you see what I mean? The greatest example of this is Norm Finkelstein, who was an immensely stubborn person, very proud person. And he thinks that from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free is a slogan that does unintentionally scare Jewish people. But Norm Finkelstein will never stand in opposition of people saying that. That is his own assessment, okay? He's like, I don't care about this. I don't care about this. This doesn't harm me at all. But I know that there are other like-minded Jews that get fearful of this, right? That are fearful of this kind of statement, okay? And he uses that as a warning. He's like, this is something that like makes people afraid. Okay. This is something that makes people afraid, something that makes Jews afraid. Okay. But ultimately, Norm Finkelstein is never going to stand in opposition to an emancipatory slogan and be like, I'm not going to stand side by side with the Palestinian movement.
It is, it's October 7th. It is exactly what they have felt. It is why Jewish students in our universities have felt
Yeah, I think what was his thing? From the root of the sea, one person, one vote.
safe. It is why Jewish students have felt that their schools did not have their backs and cared about them or their learning, because the people doing these protests use words that have meanings that are far more violent and horrific than they may have intended. But when you hear things like intifada, when you hear things like jihad.
Also, Kristen Gillibrand is not like an honest actor here. She is an APAC attack dog. So suck me if you ever take her seriously. Okay.
When you hear from the river to the sea, it is received as slaughter the Jews and destroy Israel. Period. It's how it's received. And if you talk to any group, you talk to our LGBTQ community, you talk to our Black community, you talk to our Hispanic community, there are words and there are imagery and there are things that are said that they will hear it.
She's like about to cry. Bro, this is also unironically, where did the jihad thing even come from? He never even said that ever. I know she made that up and then got mad about this made up thing. Like, there is never a moment where someone unironically uses jihad, okay? Like in a sincere way, unless they're Arab and speaking Arabic and talking about their own personal struggle or something, okay? Like, there's no world where someone says like jihad to imply the thing that like ISIS is doing, right? Like when I say it's white boy summer of jihad, I'm making a joke about the hysterics that are coming from racist right wingers, okay? It's not meant sincerely. I'm not actually saying time to strap ourselves with IEDs and blow up synagogues. Like, that's psychotic. As a gay man, you give me mixed messaging, Hasan? What? I blame the whole safe place that developed over the last 2 decades to enforce this whole hysteria instead of actually engaging in meaningful discourse to get the heart of these issues. What do you mean I give you mixed messages? Oh, what? Because I said suck me if you take anything that Kirsten Gillibrand is saying here sincerely? Is that why?
And feel it as a dagger to their throat. And so if you want to be a leader, you have to recognize how these things are felt and received, and saying there should be no word police is irresponsible. Because as a leader, you have to protect everyone. Period. One more thing before you go. For you as a member of...
Hi.
I cannot believe this unimaginable David Duke level racism coming from a supposedly progressive Democratic senator from New York who had a direct phone conversation with Zohran Mamdani, by the way. Now that we saw Kirsten Gillibrand, again, a supposedly progressive New York senator, let's hear from Representative Andy Ogles from Tennessee's 5th Congressional District, a psychopathic right-wing Republican. With the congressional letterhead, mind you, Dear Attorney General Bondi, I write to request that the Department of Justice open an investigation into whether Zohran Mamdani, currently a candidate for mayor of New York City, should be subject to denaturalization proceedings under 8 U.S.C. 1451A on the grounds that he may have procured U.S. citizenship through willful misrepresentation or concealment of material support for terrorism. According to public reports, including a June 21st, 2025 New York Post article, Mr. Mamdani expressed open solidarity with individuals convicted of terrorism-related offenses prior to becoming a U.S. citizen. Specifically, he rapped, Free the Holy Land 5, my guys. The Holy Land Foundation was convicted in 2008 for providing material support to Hamas, a designated foreign terrorist organization. Publicly praising the foundation's convicted leadership as my guys raises serious questions about whether Mamdani held affiliations or sympathies he failed to disclose during the naturalization process. While I understand that some may raise First Amendment concerns about taking legal action based on expressive conduct, such as rap lyrics, speech alone does not preclude accountability where it reasonably suggests underlying conduct relevant to eligibility for naturalization. If an individual publicly glorifies a group convicted of financing terrorism, it is entirely appropriate for federal authorities to inquire whether that individual engaged in non-public forms such as organizational affiliation and fundraising or advocacy that would have required disclosure on Form N-400 or during a naturalization interview. Moreover, Mr. Mamdani has recently refused opportunities to reject the pro-terrorist rallying cry to globalize the Intifada, a call to expand violent attacks on civilians to the United States and around the world. While political speech in isolation is not dispositive, in light of earlier expressions of admiration for individuals convicted of supporting terrorism, a troubling pattern emerges that warrants formal scrutiny. The naturalization process depends on the good faith disclosure of any affiliation with or support for groups that threaten U.S. national security. This literally happened to Ilhan Omar, okay? They did this to Ilhan Omar. I remember, because I was one of the lone voices that was defending Ilhan Omar at the time, alongside maybe like 4 or 5 congressional congresspersons at the time. The Democrats themselves also attacked Ilhan Omar. It's the same exact route. This person is Muslim. We have to find a way to pack them up. The naturalization process depends on the good faith disclosure of any affiliation or support for groups that threaten U.S. national security. If Mr. Mamdani concealed relevant associations, that concealment may constitute a material misrepresentation sufficient to support denaturalization under federal law. The federal government must uphold public trust by ensuring that citizenship is not granted under false pretenses. I respectfully urge the Department of Justice to determine whether Mr. Mamdani's conduct prior to naturalization warrants formal review under applicable law. This is the congressional letterhead. This is the real sentiment behind it. Zohran Little Mohammed Mamdani is an anti-Semitic socialist communist who will destroy the great city of New York. He needs to be deported, which is why I'm calling for him to be subject to denaturalization proceedings. Attaches my letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi. He just tweeted a new racist thing. Oh, he just said, deport Little Mohammed. This is Nazi. And if the Democrats don't hold their nose and refuse to entertain AIPAC money for a brief moment and do the right thing, they have to literally immediately get together and support Zohran Mamdani against these insanely Islamophobic attacks that he is receiving. This is a real danger. Don't say Dems do the right thing, lol. Okay? They have to. Chatters are saying primary them. They won't do the right thing. It doesn't matter right now, okay? Because here is a moment where someone did primary them, and look at the attacks he is receiving for the crime of primarying them. Do you not understand? I'm not saying don't primary Democrats. I want to primary this one specifically, Richie Torres. And I'm certain we will successfully unseat Richie Torres. Yeah, here's Andy Ogles. Yes, Michael Blake could actually take him out. You have to call Kirsten Gillibrand's office and demand an apology, especially valuable if you are a constituent. Don't say anything crazy. Don't say anything up. Don't say anything that will obviously sully the righteous cause that you have. Tell them that you heard the incredibly racist things that she said about a progressive New York politician after having a conversation with him even, and that as a constituent, you find that to be completely unacceptable and that she has to apologize and defend this progressive New York politician at a time when this progressive New York politician is receiving an unprecedented wave of racist attacks. Yeah, you can share her office number here. Here's a script for it, too. Senator Gillibrand just told Brian Lehrer that she needed more evidence to say whether or not Zohran Mamdani is affiliated with Hamas and or promotes violent jihad. Call our office right now to decry this unprecedented intra-party attack on the duly elected Democratic candidate for mayor of New York City. Here's the script. I am outraged by the senator's comments on Brian Lehrer's show that implied that Zohran Mamdani may be affiliated with Hamas, promoting violent jihad, and not committed to the safety of New Yorkers. This shocking and racist attack on a Democrat is stoking baseless fears and divisions, harming our democracy and making everyone less safe. Senator Gillibrand should be ashamed. I am a constituent. Please pass on my comments and take down my information. It's insane. He's already receiving Islamophobic death threats. For a New York senator to come out in opposition and use the same vicious Islamophobic smears against him is completely unacceptable. This was the best. This was another incredible take. No, Mamdani won't enact a single anti-Jewish measure, but I don't even know that those would, I don't even know what those would be, but that's not the point. The point is that 400,000 of my neighbors don't care that he makes Jews feel unsafe. That's the real tragedy here. It's like the Ayup Lovely tweet. It's like time for the daily dose of Jewish feelings. Like, what are we doing here, man? What do you mean? You're literally openly admitting that he's not constituting a threat, but the very fact that you feel he might should be heard? Like, what are you talking about? Lamau, we are in no danger, but we're really mad that you won't pretend we are. Do you not feel ashamed?
The amount of grotesque Islamophobia and racism coming from all corners when it comes to Zohran Mamdani's win. And the amount of hate and it just, I've honestly never seen anything like it this openly, okay? Lawmakers are retweeting calling him a parasite. They're nonstop 9/11 tweets. Like, it's insane. And the Republicans are so openly racist about it. Like, not even hiding it, full Klan member, like not even pretending at all that they are not open bigots, open racists, okay? But then you have Democrats, silent. Nothing. Where's Jonathan Greenblatt now? Where's all the anti-hate people? Where are all the Democrats that love to weaponize identity politics? Where are you guys at? I never want to hear you hoes in the Democratic Party weaponize identity politics again. And I know you will, because it's the only thing that you really have going for you. But if there was ever a time to actually speak out because somebody's identity is under relentless attack, it would be now, and none of you are saying anything. None of you have condemned the disgusting attacks on Zohran. None of you have come out and been like, this is unacceptable. I'm not seeing people call for resignations. Imagine if somebody was talking this way about a Jewish person. Imagine if Brad Lander, who is Jewish, had won the primary and people were coming out and saying that it was the end of New York City. It was the end of Western civilization because now we have a parasite in charge. Can you imagine? It would never happen because heads would roll, careers would be over, and rightfully so. The right wing is way too comfortable with being open white supremacists and open white nationalists, and I'm honestly a little bit shocked, but nonetheless, so disgusted at the way that the liberals, the liberal establishment, the liberal ruling class, the Democratic Party, the way that they are just ignoring this, the way that they are not coming out and speaking out against this and even condemning it. Like, again, if this had been any other demographic, if they were saying this about a black person who had won, or even a gay person who...
What's crazy about this, for the record, what's crazy about this is that Zohran's position, that is the reason why so many people are freaking out over it, is the position of the overwhelming majority of Democratic voters. It's 80%. It's also the position of many Jews that are also Democratic voters. Many Jews who voted for Zohran directly. So these guys are trying to whip up a frenzy and a controversy over a deeply unpopular position, not realizing the secondary impact of this. Americans are broadly self-interested people. I'm willing to bet that a big part of the resentment towards Israel for a lot of Americans doesn't just come from the fact that we're giving all of our tax dollars to these guys and they just behave so arrogantly, but also from the fact that they see this kind of stuff and they go, what is this? Like, I can't say it's ridiculous that Israel gets to kill like children on a daily basis without a bunch of people figuring out where I work and trying to fire me, or a bunch of people coming in and trying to deplatform me. Like, what are you talking about? This censorship regime at the behest of Israel unironically breeds infinitely more resentment from Americans. Americans love free speech, okay? They love it. They love it. So when you try to take that away at the behest of a foreign country and its unjustifiable perma-violence campaign, Americans get negatively polarized towards both Israel and also Jews as well, because you're cynically using Jewish fear and Judaism as a way to drive home this point that is deeply unpopular. That's part of the reason why I absolutely will stand by Brad Lander overall and the role that he played in the primary. And I hope that there are more outspoken Jews in positions of power, in positions of prominence, that will stand up and be like, look, man, I'm Jewish. You guys are being insane. Because unfortunately, Americans don't understand, okay? If the only thing that the average non-Jewish American is hearing is that Jews are really scared about Zohran saying that, Israel shouldn't kill children, then that's the only thing that they learn. The only thing that they learn is this false association with Judaism and American Jews and Israel. 3,000 plus New Yorkers marched to Senator Gillibrand's office to demand she call for a ceasefire. As Americans, we aren't just observers in the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. We are complicit. We must make it clear that New Yorkers don't stand for funding war crimes. That was in October 20th, 2023, by the way. I've been warning about this not only on the basis of humanity for Palestinians, obviously, that's my primary directive here, but also on the secondary inevitability of explosive anti-Semitism due to this false conflation, due to this false association for 2 years at this point. I mean, I've been doing that far before October 7 as well, but especially post October 7. This was a part of the warnings that I had in my Oxford speech as well. I keep repeating this over and over again, but this is akin to having like prominent Muslims on national television during the war on terror running around and being like, or under the Obama administration being like, actually, ISIS represents true Islam, and if you hate ISIS, you hate Islam, you're being Islamophobic. And then having advocacy groups set around this policy that conflates all Muslims with ISIS. That's what it's like when people run around and say, no, I'm a Jew and I'm scared and I love Israel, and all this like mean words about Israel is actually very scary, and people should stop doing it, and they should stop saying mean things about Israel because it makes me feel bad. It's the exact same. And ironically enough, that was the false association with Islam, that ISIS was basically represented Al-Qaeda and other Salafist groups that we funded, that we armed, ironically enough, and we trained and we radicalized, ironically enough, were falsely associated with the entirety of the religion. So it's additionally shocking to me to watch American Jews do that to themselves, thinking that this is going to be a position that is defensible at a time when there's unprecedented enmity for obvious reasons against Israel. Being afraid of the word intifada, boohoo, cracker, I don't care. Oh, this was him shitting on Brad Lander, ironically enough. This was Noah shitting on Brad Lander.
State Assembly.
Who had won. There would be calls for resignations, there would be outrage. But they are going out balls to the wall saying the most heinous you've ever heard about Zohran, and the Democrats are nowhere to be found. This is like, I hate the word microaggression because I feel like it's just so cringe and people overuse it all the time, just like when someone says something they don't like. But man, if this is how it actually works. Republicans are like open Klan members, like open white supremacists saying just the most heinous talking about how it's the end of the West. And then you have Democrats letting it slide, ignoring it, silently okaying it, and doing microaggressive racism. Like, but Zohran, are Jews going to feel safe with you in charge? I've seen even some so-called liberals being like, are we going to have Sharia law? People like Charlie Kirk and Marjorie Taylor Greene are literally retweeting photos of the Statue of Liberty in a burqa. Honestly, I shouldn't be shocked. I know that people are Islamophobic and racist. I guess where I'm just like a little surprised is that Democrats make it their brand to be like, we love diversity and we celebrate different identities and we pay attention to microaggressions and we're anti-racist and blah, 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 blah. But then when it comes to one of the most vicious, racist, Islamophobic smear campaigns I have ever seen in public life, they've greenlit it. They've greenlit it. They're not even condemning it, which would be the bare minimum. This is unacceptable. It is unacceptable. At the very least, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and other leaders in the party need to come out and forcefully condemn it instead of just ignoring it or kind of low-key greenlight and agreeing with it. I, for one, though, am never going to let you get away with doing your little identity politics tap dance, though. I know you're going to try to do it in 2026, and I know you're going to try to do it in 2028. But some of us are going to remember, and we're going to remember that Gavin Newsom went on the white nationalist Charlie Kirk podcast and sat there and glazed him and told him about how his son loves his podcast. And Charlie Kirk has been one of the most openly Islamophobic, bigoted, vicious racists that we have seen be that open about it in probably the last 20 years. So, and Democrats had nothing to say about it. Liberals had nothing to say about it. I didn't see any of you condemning Gavin Newsom. So when you guys try to go refuel that, the gas is going to be empty.
Here's CNN having a panel discussing the wave of Islamophobic attacks launched by prominent MAGA figures against Zohran Mamdani and Jamal Bowman. It actually boggles my mind that unironically Democrats would join in on this. Like, yes, my expectation from Democrats is to maybe stand on the side and be quiet or something, you know what I mean? And cynically not say anything. But the fact that they would also take on the mantle and try to hit that same angle themselves using the same terminology as Marjorie Taylor Greene, me, dude. Yeah. In the media, this is the only Jewish voter who exists. Yeah, they didn't even let it sit a little bit. They didn't even find something that's like maybe even like an edge case or something that they could jump on board with.
Zohran Mamdani delivered that major upset in the New York City mayoral race. MAGA World responded with an onslaught of racist and Islamophobic attacks against him. Ultra-right-wing influencers like Laura Loomer and Charlie Kirk tried to tie him to a new 9/11. We're also hearing from elected lawmakers like Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who invoked 9/11, while her GOP colleague Marjorie Taylor Greene posted this doctored image of the Statue of Liberty. And
do we have the actual OG video instead of this? Because this is like kind of low quality, unfortunately.
And Trump advisor Stephen Miller. Well,
this is 1p. We need at least I would like it if we could get 1080p instead of 1p. You know what I mean? 10 years ago, when a conservative said the N-word, they would just say, "Oops, I took a pill and didn't mean it." Now we have Dems being open Hitlerites. I clicked on the settings gear. It didn't work. Yeah, we're going to need about 1,079 more P for this.
New Yorker. I'm proud to be Jewish. I'm proud to support Zohran Mamdani for New York City's next mayor. I really like Zohran Mamdani. I like his vision for New York. I like that he has fresh ideas. I like that he cares about affordability, which honestly I think for me is the biggest issue in the city right now. I also love that he's willing to stand up to the Trump administration's agenda. I saw the video he did where he was responding to Tom Homan.
How many more New Yorkers will you get time? How many more New Yorkers without time?
And I was inspired. He has the kind of courage that I think New York needs. I'm Jewish. I'm proud to be Jewish. I support Palestinian.
Well, clearly she's Hamas.
Rights, period. I think it's important. We're all humans and we need to start acting like it.
He wouldn't quite say that he supports Israel as a Jewish homeland or a Jewish state.
Neither do I. I support equality. Anybody from any religion should be free to live anywhere on earth that they want to. I think it's not about countries. I think people have a right to exist.
Of course, but do you think that those things are mutually exclusive?
Bro, look at it. Like, what are you doing? Yo, this is, I suspect, once again, a Christian Zionist reporter literally trying to actively outflank a Jewish voter of Zohran to turn around and be like, whoa, hold on. You don't want a Jewish ethno-state in Israel? Wait. Don't you think that the Holocaust could happen any moment now?
There are tons of people who support.
Like, you're a reporter. What is, you're not, your job isn't to convert people, okay, to your cause. You know what I mean? Like, what is this? What the fuck's going on here? Your job is to report. Your job is to get the voter's perspective here. What is this extra? Don't you feel like you should feel less safe as a Jew? Zohran is Muslim. Have you noticed how Muslim he is? Shouldn't you be terrified about his Islamic style violence?
Support Israel as a Jewish homeland, who also believe that the Palestinians should have equal rights?
Sure, there's lots of different ways to look at the issue. Personally, I feel that Equality is equality, and right now what we're seeing, is genocide and apartheid. I'm not ranking Andrew Cuomo. The fact that he's accepting large donations from Trump's backers really concerns me. I think that says a lot about his potential to be independent. I think some of the other candidates in this race, sure, they have experience, but some of that experience is experience being corrupt.
Do you think that it's Cuomo's to lose?
Almost to lose. Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Who else are you ranking on your ballot?
So I haven't picked an order yet, but right now I'm thinking about Michael Blake, Brad Lander, Adrian Adams, and Zelnor Myrie as my other four. And I feel totally comfortable with any of them being our next mayor.
Amazing.
Give us some.
This is something that is occurring with the tacit permission of New York law. The Democratic nominee for mayor of New York City spoke with Cynthia Nixon last year about his bill to ban tax breaks for charities violating international law in Israel.
Of the maybe more shocking or surprising things that this New York subsidized funding is going toward, and things that might surprise people watching this or might.
This is like that one CNN reporter with a glass that reports on Nazis and asks them things like, don't you think being a Nazi is a little bad? Yeah, except the difference is being a Nazi is bad. And it's not just a little bad, it's big bad. Whereas it's good to oppose Israel. It's good to oppose Israel's unjustifiable illegal practice of apartheid. It's good to oppose Israel's illegal and unjustifiable practice of genocide. So El Reeve is the former Vice, now CNN reporter who does those things. But it would be like, it would like the equivalent situation would be if she went to a Hasbarist or like someone who's like a Kahanist and was like, don't you think it's a little bad that you are a Jewish supremacist Nazi? Like, it's the same. It's literally 1-to-1 identical, by the way. There is no difference between a Kahanist, a pro-Israel person, and a pro-Nazi, okay? There's no difference. I guess the only major difference is one is happening right now versus one is doing a historical callback and wants it to happen again.
Might even perhaps surprise people who are donating to those said charities.
Yes, I think there are sadly too many examples. And I can begin with one charity that is based on Long Island, known as the One Israel Fund. And over just a few months, they raised more than $2 million. Typically, the amount of money they would raise in an entire year, but they managed to do that in just 60 to 90 days. And they raised that money for thermal drones and surveillance cameras for settlers. And in a video that they released, one of the individuals who was thanking this charity by name, the One Israel Fund, for a drone, is the same individual that has been named in President Biden's sanction of violent settlers. So we have the president saying this is somebody who should be facing the full accountability of American law. And then the refusal to apply that to state law means that same person is benefiting from tax-exempt status being bestowed upon this organization. We have other charities registered in New York, like Israel Gives, a crowdfunding platform that allows people to donate with tax deduction to the Israeli military, including units that are currently serving in Gaza, carrying out a genocide. And this is something that is all occurring with the tacit permission of New York law. And I would say the most stunning example, though, comes from a charity that is raising money for pistol to rifle converters to send to settlers, to take a weapon that could already take someone's life and enhance its capabilities. And these are not intellectual fears that we have. These are ones that are applied on a day-to-day basis, where hundreds of Palestinians have been killed by the military and Israeli settlers over the last few months. And some of them will likely be killed by weapons that we in New York have facilitated the sending of.
Like, of course, you have no way of arguing against that, right? You have no way of arguing against that. And that is precisely the reason why, if you're pro-Israel, you never want to argue against that. You want to argue against anti-Semitism. You want to say it's simply anti-Semitic that Zohran, scary Muslim, wants to defund synagogues. He wants to rip away funding from Jewish organizations like, Jewish ambulance, Jewish healthcare organizations, things like that. How up, how insane is that? That's crazy that Zohran wants to do this deeply anti-Semitic thing. And that's precisely the reason why the conversation is kept on those boundaries. Because if you actually scratch the surface and look a little bit deeper into what the is actually going on, like what this bill actually is about, you're like, oh, that's indefensible.